Cheers, guys. Apex911, welcome to the Elitist Geek and VR news for July 18th. So this video is probably coming on the heels of the raw data first impressions video. For those of you who kept pushing that game on me the last few days, thank you. I got to admit, I had very, very low expectations going into it. Certain stereotypes in mind of what I was going to expect, and they were just blown out of the water. So anyways, the video speaks for itself. I nerded up pretty extreme in there. It was a raw take. It was right after I'd taken the HMD off. I just wanted to capture that enthusiasm, as nerdacious as it is. All right, guys, we'll leave that to that video, though. On to the news. So the very first item that I want to talk about is an Upload VR article, and it deals with a fellow YouTuber. I think he's got about 5 or 6 VR YouTube videos. His name is the Deprecated Coder, and the article on him talks about his running in place motion system, or RIP, as he calls it, like the old rest in pieces, right? Now, how his movement system is configured is holding the Vive controllers on your waist and then doing the run, in place motion, up, down, like you're actually running in place, will move you in that direction. You simply turn to go in different directions. He's also got a lazy version of that where you don't have to do the run in motion. You just kind of hold it to your side and do a bit of a pelvic thrust, and you move in that direction. I like that second one a little bit better, but I would prefer to kind of have some different elements, and that's the whole point of this news article, and my opinion around it is that for VR games to be successful, I think they need to offer multiple movement systems within a single given game. And I know that sounds like it's crazy, demanding, what the hell? But hear me out on this. The reason is, when some of us play video games, we don't want to exercise, right? If you're into Let's Dance and, doing that sort of thing, jumping around on a twister pad, power to you. There are probably times where I have the adrenaline and that's what I want to do. But there's also times I want to sit on my arse, right? Have a beer, enjoy some bad food, and play a video game with a gamepad in my hands or a mouse and keyboard and not have to exert myself. So for me, and I'm sure countless others, that would be the approach for VR, is to offer a couple of different systems. The system so far that I like best, if we're on the topic of locomotion systems, and I know I talked about this, I think it was a week ago or 2 weeks ago in a news video. But it's going to come up time and time again, this discussion, right? And one thing I didn't mention in that video is having multiple. I strongly believe that now, that there do need to be multiple. The one that I like the most so far is the system offered in Solus Project. Solus Project has the traditional teleportation movement, but then it has another one where you put your thumb and push in the 12 o'clock position on the trackpad, right? And that moves you as if you were on a hoverboard. That's kind of why I call it hoverboard movement. Instead of using your body and your weight distribution to move and turn, you use your HMD. But it feels like you're on a hoverboard, right? The issue with that movement is your head isn't free to look around, to free spin. It's also difficult to run and gun, move, and perform an action. And likewise with those other systems, right? So what they really need is kind of a melding of some of those. So, if I was making a game, I would probably offer the locomotion system, teleportation, I mean. Most people know that. They're familiar with it at least, right? But then I would kind of probably include a hybrid hoverboard style with the ability to run and gun, depending on the type of game, obviously. But if it's an FPS shooter style game, you want to be able to move while you're shooting, swinging, hitting, blocking, and so forth. And I think that would be the best way to achieve that, is to have one, handle the movement, right? And you can do that several different ways, put it down by your waist, whatever. And then be able to do the run and gun. And that's what we're going to see. We're going to see a lot of experimentation. A lot of stuff's going to fail. Some stuff will succeed. Hopefully, it's a mixture and a variety offered for any given game. That would be absolutely, my hope, that we have 2 minimum, up to 3 different choices for motion in a VR game, right? Because it's not just if you're a large or small person, heavy, not heavy, in shape, not in shape. Sometimes it's just your mood, right? And you just don't want to move. You just want to relax. So perfect for that. The next article has to do with the Chinese online shopping juggernaut known as Alibaba from the good old Arabian Tales. And they have, using an HTC Vive, last week in Shanghai, they set up a demo where you could go virtually shopping. Use the HTC Vive and the Room VR portion of the code with some teleportation, and bang, suddenly you have people walking down aisles. And it got me thinking, there are certain things I'm completely comfortable with getting digital. Video games took me a while, but I'm at that point now. I'm okay with digital distribution. There's still a collector in me that misses the box and the game art and the manuals that came in them. So when I do Kickstarters, I tend to still do collector's editions, right? But there's also a part of me that's like, oh my God, I don't have to schlep around 400 game boxes, right? In cardboard boxes, because that's what I did for the longest time. And then there's certain things certain things you can buy sight unseen. Some things you want to test. So in order for the online shopping, in my opinion, to be successful, what they're going to need to do is kind of find a balance. So rather than just have static models on a shelf, how is that any different from just looking it up in a catalog or online, right? Static picture, it isn't. You get different angles at the same damn static picture. You need to be able to manipulate the merchandise in 3 dimensions to truly benefit from the VR aspect. That's my take on it. That's my opinion. Case in point, you're shopping for electronics or more complex style objects that a screen just doesn't do justice for, right? Those are the type of things that you could take in a VR environment and you could scrutinize. You could, virtually take things apart or out of the box, if you will, right? I bought a pet fountain for our cat and they didn't have it on display. So all I had was the picture on the box. So I asked the clerk, is it okay if we open the box? I just kind of want to see it. And that's all I'm getting at, right? If you offer that degree of, okay, you're doing the virtual shop experience, you pick the item on the shelf, now you've got a virtual box in front of you that you can manipulate, 6 axis. Take the item out of the box, observe it. Does it come with batteries? All those types of questions that text and static pictures aren't ideal for, you could address, right? If you did the VR that way. So I think it's going to take a bit more of an investment and R&D phase than just rolling it out and having the equivalent of like a 360-degree picture, right? With fish lens effect bundled in at no charge. And that's just not going to cut it. They need to get innovative with that, allow customers to manipulate merchandise. And that's also where I could kind of see the augmented portion. Like, you have that device, I believe it's Google working on it, where they want to mix VR with AR. That would be a perfect example. You do your shopping, say you're in IKEA, you check out the piece of furniture, right? You've done all of that in the virtual IKEA store, but now you want to see what that looks like in your own home. Well, that's where augmented reality could come in handy. You could see the dimensions of a bed, a dresser within your actual room, right? So there's all kind of potential there. curious what your guys' thoughts are. A bit slimmer on the news today. If there's any more news that I can dig up, I will come out with a part 2. Other than that, I have a very important appointment with Raw Data. So, excuse me, guys, and cheers.